This is the Long Haul Pedalcast with John McGavick and Steve Schools. Incredible stories of endurance coming from the prairies. Be inspired to create your own long haul journey.
Welcome back, Steve. We're into part 2 with Sue Binne. This was one aspect of Sue's career that you were the most interested in.
Yeah, I think, obviously knowing her as a runner and then learning, then she moved into triathlon, and not only just move into another sport, but getting to a point where she could win a pro Ironman in her 40s. But also, there was so much more, so much emotion. And again, the ups and downs of endurance racing and life are all wrapped into this part 2.
So here we go with part 2 with Sue Binne. And then chapter 3 of your career is the triathlon. So maybe tell us, when did you decide your racing career was not finished yet? You had another chapter left in you.
Before we had babies, it was always like, I'm going to wait till I'm done competing before we have babies. But then that obviously didn't happen after the first one. And then I had my second baby. I just turned 35 and I had my second son. And then it was like a year after that, I think he was even 2 years. One of my office mates was training for triathlons and she had a coach. And I was always running and, I was doing some of the master swim just to stay fit and just do different things, just to I like to do something every day, so it would be like swim or bike or run or, so then she started kind of asking me to come on some of her training rides. So I would just do whatever workout she had. And I was actually, jumped in okay I had a road bike. So I would jump in on her bike and on my bike and I was able to kind of stay up with her. And she was a way better swimmer than I was. But I just, I was just like, it gives me some structure because at that time, obviously I wasn't training with the team anymore. And I was just making it up as I went along. So I started jumping in and Missoula always has a local sprint triathlon, 1,000 yards in the pool. I think it's a 12-mile bike and a 5K run. And I did really well. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. I'm kind of like getting a little bit of the itch for it. And then there was another one in Wassa Lake. Wassa Lake always had a big triathlon in that. It's like just in Canada over the border, Alberta. And that was an Olympic distance. And I remember doing that. And I'm not a strong swimmer. So that's definitely my weakest. And I remember being in that lake and everyone just, I was thinking, I'm not slow. I'll start towards the front. But just everybody just toppled over me and just like the anxiety and the feeling that you're going to it was so scary. And I was like, whoa, okay, this was, so that was a huge like reality, like, oh, okay. And then I remember getting out. I remember for some reason at the sprint triathlon in Missoula, everyone always wore a bathing suit because we were in a pool. And then I remember not knowing any different. I was in a bathing suit for this Olympic distance. Nobody else was. I was like, oh, this is weird. So just a total rookie move. Got on the bike and I did okay. I mean, I come out at the end of the pack on the swim and then I just work my way up. And then usually, I don't remember what I did in that race, but hopefully like top 5 or something, or top 3 in my age group or something. But then that was in June, and I'm like, gosh, I wonder if I should try and do Canadian Nationals. Like I was just like thinking this might be kind of fun. And I called up my friend's coach, and I was like, any chance you want to? It was like 2 months away or something. And I was like, any chance you want to coach me to? It was like the Apple. It was in Kelowna that year. And I'm like, any chance you would coach me in this like Olympic triathlon? And he's like, yeah, sure, or whatever. So he coached me up, like we did like whatever, 2 months of coaching. I had to like get those little Connect air bars on my bike because I just had a regular road bike. So I just got the little snap-on stuff and had to get other equipment that I didn't have. And I ended up being third in my age group, or second or third in my age group, but I qualified for World Age Group Championships in Auckland. So then I'm like, oh, what do I do there? And so I'm like, okay, Elliot, will you keep coaching me? So then my husband and I decided we'd make that our 10-year or whatever anniversary trip. So thankfully we had, parents can take care of the kids. So yeah, I went there, I did that. And that was in ocean swim, which was scary, even more scary than the lake swim. So that was, and I remember getting out of the the ocean, and I could not find my bike anywhere amongst all the bikes. Like I was running around looking for my bike, and my husband's like watching me, and he's just like, "Oh my gosh."
Oh, wow.
But you're kind of disoriented, and there's so many bikes that and there are balloons, different colored balloons. I think that's how they wanted you to, but again, I was just such a rookie. I didn't know, all the little details. But yeah, I came in third in my age group, and that's when I qualified to apply for a pro card. And that's when I was like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, oh, might as well try, see what can happen. So that's kind of what started it.
Just a step back. So your first year of triathlon, you just randomly jump into a triathlon, and by the end of the year, you finished third in your age group at Worlds, and now are looking at applying for your pro card in your very first, 6 months of triathlon.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's so now, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, no. So that was that. We were just like, and my husband's super supportive, thankfully. So, and again, it was getting to that point where social media is around, and it's like having to get sponsorships and things. And one of our good friends, I don't know, if you're not in the triathlon world, Lindsay Corbin, she was out of Missoula, Montana, and she was like kind of she kind of helped mentor me because she knew everything. She was she'd won multiple Ironmans and stuff like that. So she was a huge asset to have to bounce questions off. And then obviously my coach, but, yeah, so I ended up I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll do this, do this pro thing. My first pro race was in Colorado in the reservoir, I guess, Boulder. And that was it was an Olympic distance. And that's where I was really, really realized that if I want to do this seriously, I need to move up in distance, because the Olympic distance is, you're weighed highly, you're weighed quite a bit in the swim aspect, and it's hard to make up the distance on the bike and the run, which was kind of what I relied on. So half Ironmans and full Ironman. Well, I was just like, Ironmans are stupid. Like, that's just survival. Like, why would anybody do that? So I was like, I'm just going to do half Ironmans. And I just felt like that was easier because the swim wasn't as important. And then I got to go and do 56 miles on the bike and, and half marathon. So I had a chance to make up. And I did pretty well. It was, some races better than others, but it's definitely a learning curve, certain things like nutrition. It's a long time to go. You got to dial in your nutrition. You got to dial in your sleep, and, and the bikes, like the mechanics on the bike is just like, that's a whole thing in itself, which is extremely stressful. We did find a good mechanic, and I kind of let my husband do that part. Like, you just figure out what my bike needs and talk to those guys.
So your triathlon career just keeps progressing, and look, and these are just a couple of results, but you win half Ironman Cozumel, which is a really big event, and then you have a whole bunch of top results, and then you go and you win Ironman Taiwan as one of the oldest ever athletes to win a pro Ironman. Like, maybe take us through some, maybe those two races or another, big result. Like, you really progressed quite far in the sport of triathlon. And this is going back like 2016, 2018 time.
Yeah, I think it was over an 8-year period. Yeah. So I think, so I had the same coach for quite a while. And then I had a labrum tear, and I had surgery on that. And then it was like, okay, what do we do? Am I done? Do I want to give it one more shot? And so we're like, let's give it one more shot, but I'm going to switch up my coaches. So I got a new coach. And again, he hadn't really had very much experience with women, let alone, older women. So that was a little bit of an adjustment for him. But again, he's a great coach, great guy. And it was just nice for my body to change it up a little bit. You kind of get doing the same thing. Yep. So, again, I'm older. I have 2 kids. I'm just focused on, things that I didn't really focus as much as call it like university athlete. You know what I mean? Like, you don't go out as much. You just sleep. You do all these other things to make sure that you're training. But Ironman Cozumel, I think, was my second race with this coach. And I didn't really know what to expect. But it was an ocean swim. It was a warm ocean swim. Like, you think somebody from Winnipeg could handle the cold. I cannot handle cold water. I just like freeze up. I can't breathe. My arms freeze. So I like warm water. So it was a kind of a loop, but it had a current. And so I remember like really struggling on the one side, and then all of a sudden the current took me, and it was like, oh, this is great. And I remember coming out of that race being like, I actually enjoyed this swim. So then I got on the bike, and it was one big loop and one small loop. And then it's like, it's really humid in Cozumel. Like you're trying to grab the water bottles that they're handing, and you're just like slipping past you because it's so humid. So just like certain things, like your glasses are steaming up, like you're kind of having a hard time seeing, like just certain things that you're just like, I didn't really expect. But again, I loved the warm weather. I just feel like my body kind of handles that well. I remember going through the first big loop, and my husband yells to me, "You got some work to do," because I was like a little bit behind what we had hoped. And of course, that pissed me off. So it made me ride faster. So then I kind of made up the distance, even though I was annoyed with him. And then I got back on. And then once I got into transition, I can't remember what I was. Maybe, I think I was top 5 or something. And then I got on the run, and I just started like, I think the heat was just really affecting some of the girls. And I just started passing. I remember one time my husband's like, "You just passed Ellie Salthouse." And I'm like, I don't even know who Ellie Salthouse was at the time. He did. But I was just like, okay. I guess she was an Olympian at some point. So I just started passing people, and it was just like, and I was kind of in shock because I didn't realize that I was in that kind of shape either. I was just like this, I don't know, I was just tapered. It was like we really worked on making sure we get the electrolytes in before, especially a race like that where it's so hot and humid. So yeah, and I think it was 2 laps, 2 big, like out and back, which some people would hate, but I like it because I'm behind and I like to see how I'm making progress on people. So yeah, and then I won, and it was just amazing.
You just ran down all these runners, all these athletes in front of you,
Yeah.
and you won. And like, what a shock, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Like I bet, like Lauren Brandon, who comes out with the water way ahead of everybody else. Like we're friends, and I remember laughing before the race, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to beat you," not thinking I am, because she'd never beat me before. And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, I'm passing Lauren. Sorry, Lauren." But yeah,
they probably identify as like, we're Ironman athletes, right? And you're identifying yourself as a newbie Ironman athlete, but also you're a mom, and were you working at all, or were you?
I was working. I think it was part-time. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was working part-time at Early Head Start. So it was good. It had some flexibility with that too, which is nice. I think it was like I think a lot of us triathletes identify as a runner or a swimmer, you know what I mean? Where our background was, so it was like, and then now looking at all the triathletes out now, like the Ironman athletes, so many ones with kids, it's way more common. But I felt like even 6 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, it wasn't as common to have kids. So yeah, it was definitely a different maker. Like people were like, "Oh, what's she doing out there?" But yeah, so that was kind of when I was like, oh, I knew and then I followed that one up by Cozumel, and I got 3rd. And then it was like kind of like talking to my coach, being like, I don't know how much longer I want to do this, but I feel like I need to tackle the Ironman before I'm done.
Okay.
I mean, and the ultimate goal would be to make worlds. Like before I get done, I was like, yes, so I went from the beginning being like, I would never do an Ironman, to being like, yeah, I want to try this and see what can happen. So
wow.
Yeah.
And then you went into Ironmans, and
then
and you won the Ironman Taiwan like 2 years later. Like, take us through that.
Yeah, 2 years later. So before that, my main race was the race we were hoping, because at that point, to qualify for Worlds, you had to like basically win an Ironman from another race, or it was like a roll down. Yeah, to qualify for Kona. So we had gone to Ironman Cairns in Australia, and I brought my mom with me. It was her and I. And I was fit. I was ready to go. I had like all sorts of work done on my bike. Everything was just like, I'm like, this is where I'm going to qualify. And I think it was because it was a championship race. I think top 2 would have gone to Worlds. So I was like, okay, this is, more of a chance. I got through the swim, which again was an ocean swim, and very challenging for me. But I was like, okay, I think I was like 3rd last out of the water or something for the pro. I got on my bike and I started biking, and I couldn't change my gears. My gears were stuck in one.
Oh no.
And so I start like kind of panicking and yelling to like some of the officials. I'm like, I can't change my gears. But before the race, I always, because we have to check our bike in the night before. And before the race, you always like either you take your bike out and do a little spin, or else if they don't let you, then you just have to kind of like check your bike before, which I did. So I don't know what happened, but I kind of was like, but I started freaking out, and they said, oh, go back to transition. There's mechanics there, see what you can do. The mechanics looked at it, because it was all electronic.
Yeah.
So that was kind of new at the time. I didn't, again, all brand new stuff, everything. Our mechanic had just done everything. So I don't know what was going on, but anyways, they couldn't fix it. I went back out because they're like, oh, there's mechanics out there. We can stop and see. So I think I stopped at 3 different spots and nobody could fix it. So when I would stop at the spot, of course I would cry or yell or scream or whatever. They would at least change the gear that I was in.
Oh, okay.
They could change the gear, but we couldn't get it I couldn't change them. So they would change the gear, and then I would keep biking. And that was really hard. It was really hard to keep going because I really, really wanted to stop, but I knew I would regret it, because you go all the way to Australia for a race. And what do I tell my kids? Oh, well, my bike wouldn't switch gears, so I quit. Like that's part of it. It's like, I want my kids to know that you don't just quit when it gets hard.
Yeah.
So anyways, I even got one of the marshals gave me a warning for drafting. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get through this.
Right.
I'm like, I can't change gears. I'm not drafting. Trust me. But anyways, I came off and I ended up running a 3:20 marathon off of that. And I got 10th. So it was because it was a championship race. It was 10 deep money. So I got a little bit of cash, and and I finished the race. So I was really proud of myself for finishing. Yeah.
Yeah, to finish, but also to get top 10, and you won some prize money. So wow, obviously
Incredible.
Were you able to take some good things from that, like knowing that, hey, okay, I was fit enough, it was just this bad luck? Like, were you able to kind of process that eventually?
Yeah. I mean, it sucked, but it is what it is. And I still, got a trip with my mom. And I think more than anything, I think it just shows that you don't quit when it's, because anything can happen in Ironman, because there was other people who had mechanical issues that couldn't run, or had a cramp and had to stop or something. So you never know, like that's just it with an Ironman. You're going 10 hours, 9 hours. So you never know who's going to be there at the end. And I think that was it. It's like, I don't know who else is going to be dropping out. I don't know, I know that the many was top 10, and I'm like, and biggest thing is like, I'm missing kids stuff at home to do this. I'm not going to come back and say, oh yeah, sorry, I got annoyed because I couldn't change my gear.
Right.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, no,
So,
that's really, really good thoughts and lessons.
Mental toughness.
So you went
and I think back then, when I was in college, back in university years, I don't think I could have done that mentally.
Right. Yes.
I just think that the growth there, and yeah.
And that for me is another reason why we need to support people to keep going, because one of the things, not only does your body mature as you get older, but your brain matures. You can handle more, you can overcome the difficulties. And if we let people quit, not let them quit, but if we train them in such a way that they want to quit at 22, they never get to experience that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's not just at the moment.
Doing an Ironman on a single speed time trial bike.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've gone through this disappointment. Now, like, how do you reset? Like, what take us through your process, because ultimately your story goes further than this.
Well, I think that was June. And then we were like, okay, obviously I'm not making it to this World Championships, because World Championships is always in Kona in October, or I think it switched recently, but and so I knew I wasn't going to make it, because like you can't turn around and do another Ironman a week later. So again, we kind of just looked at different races. How can we, adjust? And again, as an older athlete, I can't, even other athletes will say, okay, I'll do an Ironman a month later. Like my body can't do that. Like I'm shot for a while, and then you just got to build up. So just kind of keeping all that in mind. We just figured out, and again, mainly my husband likes to dive deep into the technicalities of all of it, and the race, and what type of race is it, who's going to be there, So we figured Ironman Taiwan was a week before Kona. So nobody that was doing Kona that year, World Championships that year, would be in Taiwan.
Okay.
So that takes out a lot of people. Taiwan is not exactly easy to get to. So that takes out other people. So we just decided that Ironman Taiwan would be the best. And it was flat, which is kind of seems to me, and it's hot. And so those were like all things that made me.
Can I ask a question that I didn't realize? Because I used to watch Kona on ABC Wild World of Sports all the time. It was always fascinating. I didn't realize they only have so many spots. Like they have, and it's tiny. And so how many spots did they have for the following year? And how many spots were there open? You said there were 2 in Australia. Top 2 got to qualify.
Right. Yeah.
How many were in Taiwan?
The one you had, because it was a smaller race.
You had to win.
Only the winner. Yeah.
You had to win if you want to use that race to get to Kona.
And Kona has how many spots for women?
Well, I feel like it changes a little bit depending on like a championship race. Like, let's say if there's 2 people on that race, then if one of them, like how far they roll down. But I think it was generally 35 women.
Yeah.
35 pro women, like 40 or 45 pro men or 50 pro men. There's always more men than women. But yes, like basically 35 spots in that pro field. Yeah.
Super hard to qualify.
So yeah, it was.
But you figure out there's an opportunity. There's a chance at Taiwan. So this later than the year. So take us through that.
So that was October. So I got done this Cairns race in June. So then I kind of, took a break, built back up. And then Taiwan was October 4th or whatever. There was so I lost my brother a week before that. Week before Taiwan, I lost my brother, and I flew from Missoula to Winnipeg because my parents happened to be down visiting. And it was just this whole chaos of like, what is happening? So it was just so much going on. My parents had planned to come and visit. So I was completely packed for Taiwan like 3 days before, which is like my bike was packed, everything was packed, which is completely unheard of. So when we heard about my brother, my parents showed up at my house on Friday night. My parents and I got on a flight Saturday morning to Winnipeg and said goodbye to my brother. And then I was like, I wasn't even thinking about the race at that time because I was like, I don't know what's going to go on. He died of suicide. So that was hard. Just the whole mental health aspect of it all. But it's just so many things were like, we didn't make any decision. Like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. It was more like, I have no idea what my mind and body wants. But it was weird because the way our flights were, my husband and I were leaving out of Missoula and we were flying into Vancouver and taking a completely different flight from Vancouver to Taiwan, which is not what we would normally do. Usually you would go down to LA and fly and have a direct flight from, basically Missoula, LA, Taiwan. But we had 2 completely different flights booked, which is just so weird too, because that actually allowed me to go from Winnipeg to Vancouver and still take that flight.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, because if let's say I had to go down to LA, there's no way I would have even considered it. But because that was even an option, it's also like weird. It's like, you're thinking, this is weird. Like, why is this even an option? Yeah. So anyways, it was just a hard decision. My brother ran briefly for the University of Manitoba. He is an athlete and super supportive of me all the time. And in the end, we were just like, I think he would want me to go. And so I went. So I flew from Winnipeg to Vancouver. My husband met me there. I wouldn't have been able to do it without him there. And then we went to Taiwan. I think it was like, we left on Tuesday or something like that, got to Taiwan. And I really didn't do anything. It was one of those things that I never put any pressure on myself. I was like, you know what? If I don't do this race, that's fine. If I start it and it doesn't go well, then that's fine. It's like, I'm just whatever. It is what it is. And I think he would be happy that I'm here. And I put a picture of him in the back of my bike pocket, so he was there. So the morning of, we got to the race and it was super, super windy. So what did they do? They changed the swim to 400 meters.
Wow.
How good is that for me? So again, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this couldn't be any better for me because obviously the swim in an ocean is just, I spent so much time making that up. So 400-meter swim, run to the bike, and yeah, so I was in a better position than I normally would. I'm in like kind of the top girls. And yeah, I just got on that bike, and the weirdest thing, I just basically talked to my brother the whole time. It was just really cool. It was like he was there and we were talking, and it was super windy. So it was definitely a challenging course. And, Taiwan's like this little island. So we would go out and do this loop one way, and then we had to go on this like crazy bridge, which was just like side wind, do a loop in there. And I came back from the bike, I think I was in third. And then again, the run was like some loops in there. And yeah, I passed the two girls that were ahead of me, and I just kind of kept going, and it was crazy. It was the most emotional experience I have ever experienced.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he was there with me, but it was hard. So again, just that mental aspect was just, but I don't regret it. I'm glad I went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was going through your head in that last K of that marathon?
I was trying not to cry,
Oh,
and you're like, okay, like yes, those girls were way behind me, and you kind of know you're going to win, but at the same time, you don't want to assume you're going to win. And then I was just like, just so emotional thinking about my family and my brother. And yeah, it was, yeah. And then I had to go get drug tested, but
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, it was just the way the whole thing turned. It was just, yeah. So then after that, it was we kind of had a rough patch, just getting back to training,
Sure.
just with the emotional and physical
Sure.
exhaustion and everything happening at home. So that year was a real struggle for me. And I felt like my age was catching up on me too. Like I was 43, 44. I just was, and I had battled, like my Achilles were bugging me and just certain things. And so it was more like, yep, Kona's my last race. I was done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt like at that point, I felt like really my peak was, I got my winning Taiwan was just, that was kind of the big race. The Kona was just kind of the icing on top to go.
Right.
And both my parents and my husband's parents came, and my kids, and it was just super cool to experience. It was a terrible race. I had a horrible race, but I finished, and then it was done. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
That's it.
yeah, that is quite a heartwarming and heart churning story that you just told, and that was really amazing. And I wonder if we can just like finish off. Like I want that story to kind of wrap things up to a large extent. But the other thing that I'm really interested in to kind of finish off is, as an older athlete and as someone like just listening to you for this last hour and plus, like there's a lot of wisdom that you've built up, and I just want to hear what you have to say about, what you learned to be a durable older athlete. And you see like in the, big stories, whether it's Lindsey Vonn just winning a World Cup downhill at 41, and, many other stories like that. And it's something I've really been fascinated with, like an older athlete doing really well, like, the science of training, the nutrition for training, how things have changed, like the recognition between men and women, how drastically that is different. The physical side, like just trying to maintain a resilient body, the mental side, and then learning from all the mistakes, that people make. Like, what are some stories or ideas you can share with people about being a healthy, durable athlete? And for those that don't know, you're also a registered dietitian. So that's, giving that angle as well. So just some stories or aspects that you could share with others.
I think a big part of it is, as a female athlete, is just the fueling your body for you. I think that's a huge thing that athletes, high school athletes, and even university athletes, not comparing yourself and fueling your body, and actually following some of the guidelines of like pre-workout, post-workout, all those things that, when I was in high school, I didn't really know any of that stuff, or even in the university at those first years. It's just, I think, fueling your body, taking care of yourself, and not comparing yourself to somebody else. I think too, and just like and being aware that it's a process, that it's not linear, and that there's going to be ups and downs, and that, the highs are high and the lows are low, but, we keep coming back for those highs, and that, you got to remember that when they're low, because it's all worth it. And I think if you can develop like a passion for it or enjoy what you're doing, then it's going to make you more successful, and it's going to help you be a lifelong athlete. That would be probably the biggest things I would say.
Yeah, that is really good wisdom. Like, to hear those kinds of things, like, as an older athlete or any athlete, those are the things you want to get to. So thank you so much for that, Sue. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. 2 decades as an endurance athlete, right, is so challenging, and to consistently get yourself back up to that national level, international level is just so impressive. So
yeah, it was fun. It was not anything I ever expected. When when you're a little kid doing gymnastics, I never expected that I would be where I'm at or have done what I am. But I think it's just growing and building as a person. And I think too, like, kids just as high school athletes, especially girls, don't just give up when it gets hard or when you get hurt. Just like, you never know where the next path may take you.
That's right. Beautiful. It's a great example of, again, another homegrown Manitoba story of resilience and courage and stick with itness.
Yeah. Running in the snow, running in the blizzards, right?
That's right. Well, thanks, Sue. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. That was amazing. Good luck. You're now in Spokane. Your kids are playing football. They didn't get the triathlon bug or the running bug. They got
the older one is actually he runs 160.
Okay.
So yes, he is kind of runner. We ran this morning, but yes, sprinter, no distance.
Hey.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. It was fun.
Thank you.
Good flashbacks.
Yep. Good luck, and maybe we'll see you on the streets of Winnipeg one day when you're back here in the blizzard visiting your family.
Perfect. Awesome. Take care.
Oh, wow, Steve. That was an emotional part too. There were some aspects of this story that I was not familiar with.
Yeah, and I think, there's so much there, and I think, 2 aspects, we talked about with the going to Australia, doing an Ironman to try and qualify for Worlds, and then having a bike mechanical problem that can't be fixed, and then pushing on. And it's hard, it's one thing talking about pushing on, but if you just take a moment to think, you have to do 180 kilometer bike in a single gear, and you're trying to, maybe you're thinking, maybe I get this fixed, and you can't. You do 180K, and then you still have to run a marathon, and she runs the marathon and she finishes 10th. Like, there's an arc here of drive and determination over a lifetime, but also over just those moments.
Yeah.
Like, it's just when you pause and think about it, it's like, yeah, like, it's a blizzard outside. I feel down on myself. Like, I got to shovel snow. Like, that's, these are much higher level things that people have pushed through, like Sue. So that was really motivating and inspirational.
And I think sometimes about watching the Tour de France or watching professional cycling, and things are not going well for someone. Maybe they crash a couple times and then they get another flat or puncture and they just drop out. And Sue's mental imagery to say, what am I going to tell my kids? Am I going to tell my kids that mom quit when I've been telling them their whole life? And then to also not blame anyone. She said it was a new bike, it was new equipment, someone put it together. And she just said, I just had to roll with the punches. And other people might say, oh, so-and-so didn't do this or so-and-so didn't do that. But she just said, this was part of my journey. I had to get through it. And I think that for me is a really great lesson, that no matter what's happening, you try to find what's good about it and what's going to make you stronger in it. And then you just grind it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the further stories that she told about, going to Ironman Taiwan right after her brother died. I mean, that's really, again, heart-churning, but also heartwarming. She was able to feed off what her brother would have wanted, and then all the lessons that she has learned and she could share with older athletes, but also younger athletes. Like, you want to take in that wisdom, from older athletes and coaches, and she's able to not only share it with us, but share it with the athletes that she coaches now in high school and college.
And she touched on a few things that I took away from Lauren Fleshman's book about body image as an endurance athlete, as a female endurance athlete, nutrition as a female endurance athlete. Sue's a registered dietitian, and it took her a long time to learn some of these things. And it only came in her 40s where she could put it all together, which is another lesson that I try to impart on young athletes. Is it takes a long time to get there, and you got to be able to stick with it, and you have to add all these life lessons together so that when you're getting to that big race, you take all those lessons, you package them up, and you have your best performance on that day. It may not happen when you're 22. It may happen when you're 43, but you don't dwell on the past. You
learn from the past.
Yeah, you learn from the
and
past.
You move on.
It's all scaffolding for the next journey. So awesome journey, awesome story. Can't wait for the next one, Steve.
Hey, Pedalcast fans, you can now reach out to John and Steve through email. Our email is longhall@umfm.com. longhall@umfm.com. So you can send us all your questions, all your compliments, and we might get to them on the Pedalcast. So thanks for listening, and reach out to let us know what you're thinking. Thanks for listening to the Long Haul Pedalcast. Be sure to subscribe and keep listening to all of these incredible stories that will help inspire you to create your own long haul journey.